Hi there, welcome back. We've designed a site-wide header. Let's now similarly make a site-wide footer. If you know how to make a header template appear on all pages or wherever on the site you want, guess what? You also now know how to do the same for a footer, because it's basically the same process. So in this lesson, we're going to make a footer, but it's going to give us the opportunity to practice a bit more with CSS Grid, and I'm going to show you a trick to make all links on a dark background a different color, which is something you can't do in theme styles. Let's go. Here's the end result that we're aiming for. Again, it's a nice simple design. We're going to make the main 3-column bit with the dark background in this lesson and the copyright bar underneath it in the next lesson. Right, first we need to create a new footer template. Unlike with the header, we haven't got an existing footer design anywhere. So let's make a template from scratch. You'll remember how to do this. Come up to Templates, click the plus icon, give it a title, template type, this time it's a footer, of course, and create template. Here it is. I'll pencil icon to edit. And what's going on here? Well, the header is at the top of the canvas because we told Bricks to put it there on every page, but the header is not actually editable here because we are currently editing the footer, but it is nice to see it in place. Our new section icons, etc. are now at the bottom of the canvas because we're building a footer down there. Let's first make Bricks preview this footer template with the homepage content again, like we did in the last lesson. To set the preview content, if you recall, that's up in template settings. While we're here, we might as well set this footer to appear on every page of the site. That's in conditions. And then under populate content, again, we'll choose the only single page we have right now. That's the home page. And again, apply the preview. And after Bricks has a little think about it again, there's the homepage preview content in place. Again, we can't edit it right here because we're editing the footer. So to start our footer, this time, instead of adding a new section from the Elements panel as we usually do, I'm going to add it from the icon on the canvas at the bottom. By the way, if you're wondering if we should change the HTML tag of this section to footer, which would be technically more correct, in theory, well, if we come over to the settings for this new section, see under HTML tag, there isn't an option to set a footer tag here, or indeed a header tag. Sure, we could create a custom tag and manually type footer, but actually there's no need. You see, when you create a new footer template, Bricks automatically creates a div with a tag of footer already on it to wrap around whatever you add to the footer template. The idea then is that you can add as many different sections as you want inside the overall footer. This actually makes a lot of sense, and it is totally fine to have multiple sections inside a single footer. Anyway, if that doesn't make too much sense to you, don't worry. The upshot is Bricks is handling the correct code for headers and footers for you, which is good. Okay, I want the main section of our footer to have a dark background, so I'll select the section and then in Style, set the background color. Again, we're going to do this more efficiently with classes in the next module. Also, don't forget we can set the typography color to white. That'll affect the entire section in one go, so I'll do that as well. Nothing to see there yet, obviously, because we don't have any text yet. And I'm going to keep this footer design super simple, just 3 columns equal width. Now, let's think. If I click the quick layout icon on the container, yep, it's going to create 3 columns, but it's going to use Flexbox to lay them out. I'm going to prove that to you and show you how to switch this flex layout to use CSS Grid instead with one click. So see on the container, display is set to flex. Well, let's just change that to display grid. That's all it is. Default gap, always 2.5 rem, as you know, at least on desktop and tablet. Then if you recall from the last module, if we want 3 columns of equal width, we just type in 1FR, 1FR, 1FR. As a reminder, there are 3 values there, so CSS Grid creates 3 columns, and the 1FR just means take up 1 chunk of equal space each. So we're going to end up with 3 equal width columns. Yep, no need to set anything for rows because Grid just automatically creates them for us anyway. It's very helpful like that. Now come over to the structure panel. You can see we already have our 3 blocks for the columns. They were added when I clicked the quick layout icon on the container. I'll select the first block. I want to add the site logo into there again. Shift Command E or Shift Control E to open the Elements panel, search logo, Tab key to select it, and hit Return to add it. Now select the logo and browse for the logo image again. I can use the same one as the header in this case. Let's go with the width, something like 14 rem. Again, the height auto sizes to keep the correct ratio. Now the second column has a little bit of text, so I'll select the second column, jump to the Elements panel again, search, tab, hit return. I'll select the heading. Remember, again, this is an H3 by default, and the actual size of the heading that I want here is actually the size of an H3. However, I don't think it's correct for these to be set as H3. They should be H2 really, in terms of semantic meaning and avoiding skipping any heading levels down the page. You might remember me saying a bit back that we could set this heading to H2, which would be correct, and then manually alter the size in this headings style panel. But that's not ideal because then the new size that we've just created is just going to be kind of hard coded into that particular element. And we're going to lose global control of that size. So for now, I'm going to cheat and I'm going to set these as H3, just leave them as they are. So at least they're the right size for now. But in the next module with classes, we're going to easily be able to set this element as H2, which is correct, but have it look like an H3. Very clever. And we'll get there, don't worry. Anyway, I'm going to overwrite the heading. Underneath it, I'm going to pop in a rich text element, again with the Elements panel keyboard shortcut. And I'll quickly fast forward creating the content in the third column. There's an obvious issue here in that we have some links, but they are the default link color we set in theme style. This purple looks great for links on a white background, but not great on this dark background. There isn't anywhere in the interface to set an alternative link color, especially for dark backgrounds, unfortunately, but we can just add a tiny bit of very easy CSS to make it happen. And later, in the next module, we're going to let classes sort all of this out for us, so we don't have to even think about the code ever again. But that's later. In the meantime, remember, we can add custom CSS on elements. This little CSS snippet we're going to use now is below the video, by the way. I could add that bit of code to the rich text element, which is where the links are at the moment. But remember, just like we made all text white in the entire section, it's going to be much more efficient to also make all links a different color in the entire section as well. And then if we later add links in column 1 or 2, they'll also be the right color automatically. So with the section selected, I'm going to go into Style, scroll down to CSS, and paste in the code. You don't have to know what's going on with this code, but I'll quickly explain it because it's really easy, especially if you know just a little bit about CSS. If you're not interested, it's fine. You can just skip the next minute or so. But the first bit, root A, is the selector. So that is selecting the element on the page we want to style. So root is actually something that is specific to bricks. That is saying select whatever this current element is. We're currently editing the footer section. So root, in this case, means the footer section. Being able to just type root means we don't have to go looking in the source code of the page to find a class or an ID to target. It really does save a lot of time and hassle trying to select elements with CSS. And the A means anchor, otherwise known as a link. So this bit at the top is saying select all links that are inside the current element that we're editing. And then inside the curly brackets is the actual style rule that we want to apply to what we've selected. So this is the yellow hex color from our color palette. Now, by the way, if you're wondering, hang on, what if we later change that yellow color in the global color palette? Won't this hard-coded hex code be out of date? Good question. I like your thinking. And yes, you're right, it would. But there is a way actually to make this CSS code always pull in whatever the color is in the global palette, even if we change it there. Now that's going to be using color variables, and we'll cover that later in the course. But for now, just popping in the hex code is fine. And that's the main bit of the footer complete, on desktop anyway. Let's check responsive. Command B or Control B to flick to tablet. That looks great. Mobile landscape. This is a bit crushed up actually. Let's stack these columns on top of each other. Remember that we set CSS grid rules on the container because the container is the parent of the 3 child columns. Then over in the grid settings, remember on mobile, we always set a gap of 2 rem instead of the 2.5 rem that's coming down from desktop. That covers column gap and row gap, as you'll soon see. And then in grid template columns, again, 3 values here means it creates 3 columns. Well, we want just 1 column now, so we just need 1 value, just 1 FR. And that's it. CSS Grid now gives us just 1 column, and it automatically creates the rows that we need. And that's the main bit of the footer fully complete. Your task now is to build your own. So create a new footer template in the templates area, add your columns with CSS Grid, add some content. I've popped the content I used in the video below the video. And to change the color of all links on the footer's dark background, all you have to do is add that little snippet of CSS to the overall section. The code for that is under here as well. And when you've done that, next, let's quickly finish up the footer with a simple copyright bar. I'll see you there next.